so here we go. All right, I'm recording and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. We are today really discussing, we're going to be working in test, and this is wholeheartedly around warehouse error reports. So back in training, I'm sure at some point, you guys went over the warehouse error reports. And at some point someone said, hey, if you're going to get a report out of Coupa and then you got to fix it. Okay, so what does that mean? So basically there are a couple of different error reports in Coupa, and we're going to go over today how those errors are created and what we do to fix them. Okay, and we're going to talk a lot about timing, because timing with these reports is really, really critical. Okay, so one of the things that can happen in Coupa is when you go to place a warehouse order. So you're running replenishment, you're ordering something into inventory, right? Something is, you're basically creating an order into your warehouse, right? When you go to create the order, it always defaults to this account, this 001 account, and it always defaults to cost of goods sold. And then typically what you guys are going to see is you're always going to see this warehouse replenishment section. And basically what this does is it converts the placeholder GL account into an asset GL account, which is where all of our warehouse stuff is charged to. So when you see asset GL accounts, they have all zeros in the department number, and then they usually start with 4. Okay, so that would be a correct order. This is an incorrect order, because if I look at, if I were to get an error report about this order, it would be called warehouse GL issues. And if I go into Coupa to see those issues without getting a report, I don't have to get a report, but the report's kind of like my indicator something's going on. I would go to purchase order lines, and then I would find the view for warehouse GL issues. So you can see here's my chocolate star we were just focused on. And so I would get a report about this order. Now, the reason I'm getting a report about this order is because it's wrong, right? Something happened where the account was not converted to the right account number, and I need to go fix that. Okay, now, if this shouldn't happen a lot, because you guys should be making sure when you're placing that warehouse replenishment button is in your approval chain. As long as it's there, this should not occur. It's when things are funky that this occurs, okay? So for me to fix this, what do I do? How do I fix it? When do I fix it? Okay. So super important, super, super, super important. You have to fix it before the invoice is entered in Coupa. Okay, you gotta. Now, some of our invoices are entered into Coupa the same day. So like if you receive a US Foods or Sysco order first thing in the morning, 5 o'clock that night local time, that's when the invoice is going to hit your system, right? So that gives you a day. It gives you the day to fix it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the PO number. I'm going to go into the purchase order, okay? Scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to request change. Then I'm going to go to, this is just one line. If it was multiple lines, I would have to do it on every line. But I'm going to correct the cost of goods sold, okay? How am I going to do that? So this is food, so it needs to go into my food inventory. All of us have 3 inventory accounts that we use. One is food, one is beverage, one is everything else, okay? Which sounds a little weird, but it's super easy to understand. If it's edible, it goes in food. If it's alcohol, it goes in beverage. If anything else goes in the general account. So how I find that is I hit the little button And then I'm going to basically type in my property number. And I know that I want the correct account is all zeros and the department number. And I know they all start with 4. So I'm going to search that. Now it's going to bring up like lots of these. So I can see other inventory general warehouse, beverage inventory warehouse, right? So here's where all my accounts are. Food inventory warehouse. I'm going to pick the account that my item belongs in. So this is a chocolate star. So it should go into my food warehouse. I'm going to choose. It's going to update it correctly. It's going to go to the buyers because buyers have to approve just to make sure, right? We're all on the same page. Buyers approve all PO changes. And then I submit change request. That's how you fix it. It's just that simple. So if you do get a report for POGL issues, that's how it occurred and that's how you fix it. Okay. Now, a second type of error. So if I am in a hurry and I am pulling warehouse orders, right? One of the things I could potentially do is the pick. I can pick it. You can't screw that up. But what happens after delivery when I go to receive it? Okay. So when I go to receive picks after I delivered them, when I go into inventory and I go into receive, because I'm performing a receive function, and I search my PO number once the system catches up with me. So I search my PO number. And I say, so this is something that we are delivering to the outlet, right? We delivered it to the outlet. I am going to find the 2 napkins and I'm going to receive them, or the cup here. I'm going to receive 2 of them. Well, what happens instead of consume? Sometimes, what happens if I receive it back to inventory? So will it let me? Let's see. Oh, look, it did let me. It let me receive a warehouse item back into inventory. Okay, that's a mistake. So receive errors is a potentially other report that you're going to get. Okay, this is one of the things that report catches. Okay, so how do I fix it? What happens? How soon do I fix it? Well, it could affect your on-hand balance. So I just want to be really upfront with you guys. The faster this can get fixed, the better, right? Because our on-hand balances are live numbers. That's what allows our team to rec things out. That's what allows us to pick things. That's what allows the replenishment to work correctly. So the faster we can fix these, the better. So how do I fix it? I'm basically just going to find the receipt. And I am going to find my receipt here. And as long as I have not used more, like as long as I still have enough on hand, it's going to let me void this. So again, faster we do it, the better. I'm going to say, oh no, wrong item received. And I'm going to give it a reason, right? I received into inventory, not consume. Which, spelling is important. And I'm going to void receipt and hit OK. And then I have to remember, though, I have to go back and receive this correctly. So that is how that error occurs and what I need to do to fix it. Now, there are going to be some instances. What happens if it doesn't give me a void button, right? What happens if this is done and it doesn't give me a void button? You have to monitor this, and the next time you have enough on hand, that's when you are going to complete the void and complete the receipt, right? Because the system has this stopgap where it's not going to let us void inventory receipts. Even if they're wrong, it's not going to let us void inventory receipts unless there's enough on-hand balance for us to do that with. So that is how this error occurs, and that's how you fix it. Now, the third error we're talking about, what happens, can I consume a warehouse order? So what happens if I consume a warehouse order? So it's an order out to my warehouse, right? So I'm going to go into receive, and I'm going to receive a warehouse order, which is normal and probably happens every day for you guys. So I'm going to receive a warehouse order. And there's a couple different errors here that I can make. The first one is, what happens if I receive this chocolate croissant, but instead of defaulting to receive to inventory, what if I consume it? Will it let me? Yeah, it's gonna let you. So when I do this, it's going to receive it, it's going to pay it, but it's not going to actually add the quantity into my inventory. So I'm going to have it, like the croissant's going to be on my warehouse shelf, but no one's going to be able to rec it out, and the system won't think it's there, right? So when we get a report for stock error or warehouse inventory receipt errors, that is what it means. And how we correct it, we go to view receipts, we find the chocolate croissant, we void, and we receive correctly. So wrong received. Void receipt, hit OK. So again, right, super fast, right? These do not take very long. Obviously, we're doing very single line items for sake of time today. So when you're doing a US Foods order and you receive the whole thing incorrectly, is it going to take a little bit of time to fix it? Yeah, it is. But to maintain your inventory accuracy and to get things paid on time and to make sure that your chefs and your end users can rec things out of your warehouse correctly, this is absolutely necessary. Okay. So the last thing that I can do, this is the fourth error. The fourth error has to do with location. So I'm going to use this same example. So I'm going to receive one of these brownies correct. So I'm just going to say, you know what? I want to receive one brownie, and I'm going to do it. Man, I keep doing that. I'm going to do it correctly. Okay, so we can kind of see how it affects the on-hand balance portion. So I'm going to receive to inventory. I'm going to make sure my warehouse is selected. I'm going to make sure this receive to default location is selected, and I'm going to receive it. Okay, so that's the correct way to receive an inventory item. Obviously, I'm not uploading my attachments and backing documents and things like that, but for the sake of the example, that's the correct way to do it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to receive this other brownie incorrectly. So I'm going to receive to inventory, but I'm not going to have my default location button selected. Okay, and then I'm going to submit. This is the fourth error, is when we receive it to an incorrect location. Now, how that appears is under your inventory when you go to on-hand balances, and we're going to look at Blackhawk on-hand balances. And I'm going to search brownie because I want you guys to see kind of how this looks in your on-hand balances. So you can see I have chocolate brownies. I have a total of 4 in inventory, but notice one of them is to none. So it's not in a location, or you could see where it says food and none. That's also bad, right? We want it to go into this location so they're one item. So how do I fix this, right? It's super important. How do I fix it? So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to go back and void the transaction because it's already here. It's put it in inventory for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this little forklift, and we're just going to move this one to this one. Okay, so we're going to use the little forklift, and we're going to say I want to move one case, and then I want to transfer it, and I just need to make sure I choose the right location. Okay, so it's not going to default for me. I have to make sure I'm choosing the right location. So I don't know about you, but I didn't write it down. So I'm going to open inventory in a new link. And I'm going to say, oh, this goes in food, freezer items, G12. I can come back here. I can select food, freezer items. Now, notice this is not in any particular order. Some of yours might be. Blackhawks is not. And so we get to basically kind of scroll through the list and find G12, which I apologize, it may be at the very, very bottom. But we're going to find it. Once we find the right location, basically, if you guys see me pass it, you tell me, because we might be here all day if I keep going past it. Once you find the right location, you're basically going to select the location and hit save. Now this takes that one. So notice now I have 4 in one location and I have none here, but it's still showing up. This will automatically fall off in a couple days because remember, on the on-hand balances screen, if there's no activity to an item and it has a 0 on hand, it'll fall off this list after a while, right? Because this is more of our active inventory list instead of our warehouse list. So those are the 4 types of errors that we can create during our day-to-day lives, and that is how we fix each one of those errors. So the last thing, if you do get an error report and you go to perform one of these corrections and it's either not giving you a corrective action, you're not sure what to do because it's kind of out of the realm of what we talked about, it doesn't follow this prescribed method, try to take a look at it, see if you can figure out what's wrong with it. If you do have any questions and you just can't fix it, you can email eProcurement. They can help find what's wrong with it and help get it corrected. The important part is that it's done almost immediately, because as you guys saw, like when I affect inventory, right, that's going to affect my end user experience, that's going to affect my on-hand balance, that's going to affect how things are charged, it's going to affect how departments are charged, and it all kind of has to be done right away, because what happens if I make an error and then the next day someone wrecks out an item that I don't actually have because one of these errors occurred, right? Because then that creates more steps down the line. So just keep in mind when you do get a report out of Coupa, please, please, please take immediate action, take time out of your day. It shouldn't take very long. It should take 5 or 10 minutes just to look at it, see what you can do, make the correction. But it's really important to kind of give those emails priority when you do get the reports. Okay.